So this past weekend, we saw the conclusion of Cologne, often noted as the biggest tournament in Counter-Strike outside of the major. It ultimately ended with Faze defeating Navi in the grand final 3-2, and it was a tight series. S1mple is quoted as saying, "I think this was the hardest final that I've ever played."
Yeah, watching it, you could tell that all the two teams were definitely the number one and number two team in the world. Like, there's no question. And I think it was so close. Like, the rivalry is definitely still going on. Like, FaZe got the best of them here, and obviously in the major final. I think they're 3-2 in total series with these two lineups. But just looking at that could easily have been a 3-0 for either of those two teams. And S1mple winning the MVP, I think Twistzz should have got it, but I know he really just peaked in the final. A lot of people are making that narrative, but I think he was good enough throughout the tournament that since he was so good in the final, I feel like that should be weighed a bit more than the totality of the tournament.
It's also worth noting too that Navi were playing with SDY, who's officially marked as a stand-in, and they haven't had like a crazy amount of time with him, whereas this Faze lineup has been together for a pretty long time at this point. So the fact that they came in first at Blast and second at IM Cologne is definitely a huge positive in my eyes.
Yeah, I think S1mple said something in one of his interviews like he thinks they're going to be better with SDY in the long run. SDY didn't look too bad. He came up clutch in a lot of moments, but I think in their like round to round structure, there's a lot of holes he creates for not fully knowing the system. But I think overall, I mean, he's definitely a good enough player to be on the team. And I'm not sure who else in the CIS region they would want that they could reasonably get, like actually be able to get. I think they should stick with them. I think if you run that series 10 times, they win 5 and FaZe win 5.
Yeah, and SDY also, I feel like the integration with him and Electronic at the same time, it's kind of like a 50-50 kind of thing with Navi not being set in stone. Now, Electronic has been performing really well as an IGL, and his calling has been pretty solid so far. But, again, it's worth noting, when you're up against Karrigan and then a superstar Faze lineup that's been together for a long time, this is a pretty good result in my eyes.
I think Perfecto is definitely underperformed more than anyone in the final. He had some really bad maps, some really bad plays. He was getting targeted on some maps, like pretty clearly, you could tell.
Yeah,
I
and S1mple even said, like, he said over and over their CT sides were just too weak throughout the series, and probably part of that has to do with Perfecto.
Yeah, I think you can also like throughout the final, you can see on like the player webcams that S1mple got a lot more frustrated than he usually does. But I think like when it's a BO5, that can definitely take a lot out of you. But it also is like, and no round came easy. And then those last two rounds of Nuke, Twistzz just said no. Twistzz absolutely abused the fact that the electronic couldn't hear the crowd and just ran through outside. I think when you lose rounds like that, it's got to be demoralizing.
Yeah, and fun fact about that play in FaZe's playbook is called Canada, which is just funny because Twistzz just comes in and just does Twistzz things.
Yeah, no, Twistzz. I wish they won Overpass. That 1v3 on Overpass was absolutely nuts. I think he had a couple almost clutches on Ancient, or maybe he did finish that clutch on Ancient. I don't remember, but he he is crazy in post plant clutch situations. And then obviously the Canada play, the second to last round of Nuke, that was insane entering, like insane.
Yeah, I also Navi gave up a huge comeback on Ancient, and I kind of questioned their mental state in the series after that. They ultimately closed it out in overtime, but they had a crazy lead, like 15, I don't even remember, 15-7, something like that.
15-4, I
Yeah.
think it was.
Yeah, it was something crazy like that. I feel like that would take it out of you, especially in a best of 5 when you have to
Those
go on
are
and play a bunch.
those are weird because you don't know, like that could go one way or other. Like the fact that you gave up the lead is bad, but then you pulled it together to win. But at the same time, like you did blow a 15-4 lead, even if you did come back. So I think
Yeah.
that's. I don't think they're gonna change anything within the roster. I think they're gonna keep SDY. He looks good with them. But Faze, I hope they can keep it up, dude. Like player breaks historically have screwed over a lot of teams. But I think for Faze it'll help them because Karrigan has talked about how like their schedule was so packed that they didn't even have enough time to practice
Yeah.
until Cologne.
So heading into the player break with Faze ranked number 1 in the world and Navi number 2. And then when we return, it's just big tournament after big tournament with Blast, Fall, the Major, and whatever other tournaments there are. It'll be really interesting to see how the rest of this year plays out.